Hi, I'm Mal from the Money Study, bringing you another episode of our Take 10 challenge. And here we are at number 65 and a thing called the 3 pillars. Before we kick off, there's the disclaimer. It's all about facts, it's about information, and it's got nothing to do with advice in today's video. The 3 pillars. This has been a strategy or legislation, whatever you want to call it, from the government basically over the last few decades, really, where what they're suggesting is that your retirement is based on 3 things, a bit like a 3-legged stool. And one part of it is going to come from the age pension, so from Centrelink. Another part's going to come from our compulsory superannuation, and another part is going to come from our own personal savings. So that's the theory, that all these 3 things combine to give us a reasonable chance of retiring in a comfortable scenario. Now, of course, all of these 3 things will not apply to everybody, because not everybody is going to be eligible for age pension due to the assets test and the incomes test. Not everybody is going to have compulsory super, literally because they might have been self-employed and no one ever put superannuation into them. Voluntary savings, not everybody can afford to basically put money aside. Not everybody owns their own home. So these three different pillars may be totally and will be totally different for everybody. And your little arrangement might be heavily weighted towards more money from the age pension. You might be getting the full age pension because you've got very little in savings or super. Or because you've got a huge amount of money in your superannuation, you won't get any age pension at all. And obviously, if you've been able to save a lot on top of what your employer has put in, then obviously our super's looking very good, and hence, therefore, the chance of an age pension is very slim. Now, of course, the thing is with all of this will change over time. So initially, when you retire, you may indeed have too much money in super and or savings and so forth that you're not eligible for age pension. That doesn't mean you won't get age pension later on, because the assets test and the incomes test are applied all the time. And as soon as your assets or your income, whichever the one is causing you the problem with your Centrelink age pension, as soon as you get beneath these caps, then all of a sudden the age pension would kick in. Now, of course, the age pension from Centrelink is a tapered arrangement, meaning that if you're just underneath the cap or the threshold, yes, you'll get a small age pension. As your assets go down, perhaps, or your income reduces, then your age pension amount would go up until you're actually getting the full amount. So these things will be quite fluid between the 3 different things. And it could be, of course, that you may even drain your super faster in the earlier years while you're still young enough to enjoy it, so that you're thinking, well, okay, I'm going to enjoy my life while I'm in my 60s and 70s and whatever, depending on your health, obviously. And therefore, yep, it might mean that Centrelink might kick in for you at 68 or 78 or 88 or whatever the case may be there. Now, the voluntary savings, I say, your home is certainly, you've been saving up to buy your own home. That is classified as an asset for you because you don't have to pay rent. But as far as Centrelink is concerned, it is not an asset. We'll go through this in another session. But your voluntary savings could be your concessional or non-concessional contributions to your super. But of course, it could also mean you've got an investment property or 2 or 5 or 10. It could mean that you've got a share portfolio. It could mean that you've got a couple of $100,000 lying around in a term deposit. It doesn't mean that it's all in like savings banking account. It's talking about this is any money that effectively you've been able to amass no matter where it's sitting. So it could be in with your super. But of course the government is providing the first 2 of these pillars. So they're providing the age pension. They're providing or forcing, dare I say, the employer to pay their compulsory super. The money's not coming from the government, it's coming from the employer, but at least the legislation is indeed forcing the employer to pay that compulsory super. But the third one really is obviously totally up to you, and that's why we've got that word voluntary next to it. So as I said, this is going to vary depending on your age, your situation, and it'll be totally different probably from you, your neighbour, your siblings, or whatever the case may be. So we've got these three things. How do they intertwine together to give us our income that we require? Now, in this particular example here, I'm actually using the Money Smart Retirement Calculator, and anyone can use that. So you can go to the Money Smart website, and if you just Google Money Smart Retirement Calculator, you'll come up with this quite a powerful little calculator. And the idea is here that you can put in how much money you've got in your super. And because when I say in super, it could mean that that's also money in bank accounts. I'm really talking about your assets that can generate income, and also if you've got a partner, what have they got in assets and so forth. Now we've got three different colours here. The lighter blue colour is the income that's going to be generated from, say, your super. The sort of greeny colour in the middle there, that's the income that's coming from the partner's super. And of course then we've got the raw blue sort of colour there, and that's the age pension from Centrelink. So in this particular example, you've got 600,000, your partner's got 200,000, so between the two of you, $800,000 is what you've got here. And effectively this thing is starting at the age of 67. Now obviously in the calculator you can go back and start it at 60 or whatever age you wish, but of course the earlier you start this thing, the less money generally speaking you're going to have, and of course the less time the money is going to last you. So in this example it's assuming a 4.4% earnings. Now I must admit I did the slide a couple of years ago when probably 4.4 was probably low for a super fund, but it was probably high for money in bank accounts, so it was sort of somewhere between the two. Now, of course, with interest rates going up, we're starting to see people to get 4% plus for their savings account. And so even if you've had cash or a very conservative option in your super fund, then getting somewhere around about this mark shouldn't be too difficult. So you can see there that initially at 67, when both, I'm assuming both partners are effectively 67 in this particular example, hence they're both eligible for Centrelink. Now, of course, that's not always going to be the case. And if it's a case that your partner's a lot younger than you, yep, they might still be at work, in which case your income could become from your Centrelink, their perhaps part-time job, and the superannuation and so forth. So it just comes down to your overall scenario. But in this particular example, we've got a couple, both over 67, 600 in one, 200 in another partner, and we've both decided to retire. And what they're looking for here was an income of around about 62, 63, somewhere in that sort of vicinity, a little bit under that Australian standard we saw in previous examples. For whatever reason, they believe that that's what they can live on, and let's see what the result will be here in this example. Now, of course, if they earn more than 4.4, then of course they're not going to be eating into their super as quickly. So if their super fund was earning them 6% or 7%, and yet they're only pulling out what they need to sort of supplement this age pension business, they could find that their super is going to either last them a lot longer, or indeed they could be taking out a lot more. So if you're using the calculator, have a bit of a fiddle with the various different fund earnings rates there, just to sort of see the difference it could actually make. Now, because we don't know what's going to earn, of course, and that's always the drama with doing any sort of projections. We don't know what we're going to earn, unfortunately. If we really did know when we're going to die and what we're going to earn, gosh, it'd be simple to do financial planning. But in this example, you can see there in the first year, a big chunk of the $60,000 income is coming from the main person who's got the main super there. Another reasonable chunk from the partner super, and only a very small amount of age pension. So their eligibility means that due to the fact that they've got so much money in super, that their eligibility for Centrelink is quite low. Now, as time goes on, meaning they're eating into their super, then as their assets come down, you can see there by the time they get up to age 72, 73, you're getting almost as much from Centrelink as the main person is getting from their super fund. And then by the time they get up to around about 80, you can see there then effectively what they've done here is pretty much hit the full age pension for them both, the full age pension. So they're getting a maximum age pension because they now got small amounts of money in their super fund. And it's quite interesting when you use these calculators and so forth to see the dollar amounts. There was an interesting book I think I sort of tried to recommend back in whatever episode it was about other resources. And one of the books was called You Don't Need $1 Million to Retire Well. And in the back of that book it gave some very interesting information showing a single person, if they had 600,000 odd in their super fund, they're actually having an income that was less than someone who only had $250,000 in their super fund. Literally because what they were losing on Centrelink, they couldn't make, generally speaking, from their super fund. And the sort of sweet spot was around about the 450 mark, meaning that if you only had 450, you're maximising your super and maximising Centrelink. Now, of course, those numbers will change, and it's different. Of course, if you're going as a couple and so forth, I don't use that as a, I should spend money to get my super down to a level, because Centrelink can indeed change. But you can see this example that the money effectively, superannuation money runs out at the age of 89, and then they're basically surviving just on the age pension. So if that's acceptable to you, then yep, you can say probably by 90, that's all I'm going to need, because I won't be travelling, I won't be doing other, doing skydiving or anything that might be costing you money at that time. But of course, your health costs could also be rising dramatically as you get older. So look, have a bit of a fiddle. It's a great little calculator. There's quite a few out there. But as I say, I always like the Money Smart website for their calculators, literally because they don't have the advertising, and they don't push you, they don't contact you and get spammed with all sorts of other information. Have a fiddle, have a play, see what your scenario looks like. It could mean that you might better bring your retirement forward, or it may mean that, oh, sorry, you need to work a little bit longer. Happy to have a chat about it all. Talk to you soon on another episode.